Taylor the shot, redirected, score! Game 7, Montana St. Louis! We are going back to Tampa Bay! A Cavalier spinning, a Cavalier looking, trying to drop it off, brings it in himself, left it in the middle, shot,
Welcome back to a special edition of Quick Strike. My name is Jake Ricker. I'm here with my good friend, as always, Michael. Michael, how you doing today?
Doing good, Jake. It's nice to know that we actually have our round 2 opponent scheduled out, so I can't wait to face them.
Yeah, the NHL threw us right into it with round 2 starting immediately. Game 1 of round 2 is today as of this recording, and the Lightning are going to be taking on the Boston Bruins in round 2. So a fun opponent nonetheless. But let's jump right into it and let's take a look at the schedule for this series. And an interesting schedule, a couple things to note here. Game 1 is going to be at Sunday at 8 p.m., and then Game 2 is on Tuesday at 7 p.m., with Game 3 on Wednesday at 8 p.m. That's going to be a back-to-back. It'll be the first back-to-back for the Lightning in the playoffs so far. They had a back-to-back potentially scheduled in the last round, but that was for Game 6 and 7, which we obviously did not get to. Now, Game 4 is going to be on Friday at 7:30 p.m. Game 5 will be August 30th. Game 6, September 1st, and then Game 7, September 2nd, which, if you notice, there is another back-to-back. So the Lightning could potentially have 2 back-to-backs here in this series, which is very interesting with some of the other series not having back-to-backs at all.
Yeah, like Eric Erlinson mentioned on Twitter, the 2 Eastern series both have 2 back-to-backs, and the only series in the Western Conference that has any back-to-back is the Vegas-Vancouver series, which has 1. The Colorado-Dallas series has 0. And I don't know if that's because of scheduling conflicts at Scotiabank Arena or the fact that the NHL might want to have the teams get to Edmonton as fast as possible and quarantine, but it is something to look out for.
Yeah, I definitely think it is because they're trying to get this done as quickly as possible. With round 1 starting, or round 2, excuse me, starting so quick. I mean, round 2 was going to start whether or not the games finished last night. Now, they ended up all finishing, so, everything's starting on time technically, but no days off for anybody. We're going right into round 2. So it'll be interesting to see if they have an effect on the Lightning with back-to-backs. Now, you won't have what you normally have in regular season with back-to-backs with backup goaltenders coming into net, but, guys could be a little bit tired and a little more sloppy on these back-to-backs. So we'll see if we even get to the second one either too with getting into Game 6 and 7, but that'll all be determined in a couple of days here. Let's take a look at the previous games the Lightning have had with the Boston Bruins. There's been a couple of them. So Game 1, the Lightning played against Boston, was a 4-3 Lightning win in the shootout. Game 2 was a 3-2 Lightning win, and then Game 3, Boston beat the Bolts 2-1. And then the fourth game they played, this was the game of note, or the game Lightning fans will remember. This is where the Lightning won 5-3, but there were a ton of fights, a very physical game in that one. And then the Lightning did play the Bruins one more time in the round-robin tournament, and they ended up winning that one 3-2. So the Lightning have had the upper hand against the Bruins throughout the regular season here, winning most of these matchups.
Yeah, and the 2 games that were at TD Garden, I was fortunate enough to go to both of them, and they really exemplified the fact of the Lightning not getting pushed around as much this season as compared to last season. With what happened, especially the fact that last season they thought they could win every game just skillfully instead of with a little bit of grit as well. And the round robin was interesting because I thought Boston was going to get eliminated in round 1 purely because of how bad they were during the round robin. They lost all of their games, and in only the Tampa game did they look semi-competitive, and that was only for a couple of minutes where they just tied the game in a few minutes in the third period. So I was very surprised to see them win against the Hurricanes so decisively, and I think that might have something to do with the play of who we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah, they definitely look like 2 completely different teams when you look at the round robin tournament in round 1 of the playoffs. So I would have to assume they're going to be like they were in round one. Obviously, now that we're into the thick of things, the playoffs here, and this will probably continue to be a very physical series, very grueling series. Which is, I think a lot of Lightning fans would have preferred to play the Canadians because it's going to be a tough, long series. But we're playing Boston, and hey, you know what? You mentioned this on some of the earlier shows that we've done. Uh, this is the revenge tour for the Lightning. We're going to have to go through the thick of things, all tough opponents going on through these playoffs. So let's take a look at the stats between these two teams here. The Lightning have the advantage in most of these sections. Biggest difference, though, is the power play. The Lightning rank 18th on the power play at 13.3%. Boston is 11th on the power play with 17.9%. The penalty kill, the Lightning rank 6th in the league at 87.1%, and the Bruins rank 9th at 85.7%. As for goals for per game and goals against per game, Lightning lead in both those. Lightning lead in the goals for category, 2.5 goals per game, and the Bruins at 2.38. Both of them are tied at goals against per game at 2.5. And keep in mind, these are regular season stats, not playoff stats.
Yeah, and that's really, really interesting because when I think of goals against, I am very high on Vasilevsky. I think a lot of people are. Tuukka Rask is a big, big deal, and we saw that he left in the middle of round one. Excuse me. He left in the middle of round one to go tend to his family, and we thought the Bruins were done. Halak stepped up, and he was really, really good for the Bruins. And I'm not a huge fan of Boston's defense, so that goals against surprises me a little. They have a lot of talented defensive forwards, but as far as defenders go, Char is really, really old. McAvoy is good. Krug is good. They don't have anyone that's really stand out right now.
Yeah, no, it's very true. Bruins are a physical, more offensive-driven team, so the fact that they have their goals against as low as they do is quite impressive. And obviously, Halak, who we'll get to in a minute, was big for them. A lot of people thought when Tuukka Rask was going to leave the team in round one that the Bruins were done. They thought that the Hurricanes would start to run over them a little bit, but they didn't, not at all. So Halak was huge for them in round one and might have to be in round two. Actually, let's get to that right now. Difference makers for this series. We've picked Yanni Gourde and Halak as the difference makers for the series. Let's talk about Yanni Gourde first. Why do you think Yanni Gourde is going to be the difference maker for the Lightning in this one?
Well, besides Braden Point, I think he was easily the best player. Well, Yanni Gourde as well, or Andre Vasilevsky as well, but I thought Yanni Gourde was easily the best Lightning player. He was a fantastic two-way player. Didn't put up a ton of points, but he was super, super clutch. He had that tying goal in Game 1. He assisted on the Gaudreau goal, the first one of his Lightning career. They've been so, so good at just energizing the team. And if you remember back in 2018 when Lightning and Bruins played, Yanni Gourde was fantastic in that 5-game series. He got a power play goal in Game 2 of that series, and overall just looked like he was outmatching the line that he was up against. And the fact that we have Gourde, Gaudreau, and Coleman on our third line against Boston, who, yes, Boston's very good at scoring goals, but the third line isn't that good. I think that the Lightning's third line is going to have a much easier time, Yanni Gourde included.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, this is going to be a gritty series, and Yanni Gourde likes to play in front of the net in those gritty spots. So that's going to be a huge difference for the Lightning. If Gourde can get in front of the net, win those battles, and deflect pucks, that's going to be a huge advantage for the Lightning. Let's look at Halak, though, for the Bruins, their netminder, who is now taken over for Tuukka Rask. He has a .919 save percentage, and again, these are regular season stats you were seeing on screen there. As we mentioned before, Halak was huge for the Bruins in round one. He's going to need to be again here.
Yeah, I really like Halak. Like every time that I'm playing NHL 20 or whatever, he's always one of my goalies. Even though he's super old, but he's been consistent for a really, really long time. Ever since he left the Islanders, he's been that consistent backup. And when Tuukka Rask left the bubble, the only reason I thought that they were in trouble, not because of Halak was good, but I thought that Tuukka Rask was one of the best goalies in the league this year.
Right.
So, even if Halak is good, that's a significant step down. He played out of his mind. in the series that he needed to. He kept them in it for a lot of the time, and they responded by scoring goals for him and generating offensive pressure. So he is the backbone of that team, similar to how Andre Vasilevsky is the backbone of Lightning. However well he does, the Lightning will do. However well Yaroslav Halak does, the Bruins will do just as well.
Right, and we mentioned the Bruins are not known for their defense, and while the Lightning are a very offensive team, Hawaii is going to be even more important because if the Lightning get their offense going, it's going to be tough for the Bruins to get back into things, especially if that third line, as we talked about, starts scoring their goals. So let's look at the keys to the series for the Lightning here on this one. Our keys to the series are these. First, stay out of the box, and we'll get to this in a minute here. But second key is don't play their game, and the third key is win faceoffs. Let's break this down one by one. Stay out of the box. I mean, this one's pretty obvious, but the Lightning cannot take penalties in this series.
Yeah, and we've had our complaints about the referees in these playoffs. I think they've been absolutely horrible, and I think the entire refereeing system needs an overhaul. But some of these penalties that they're taking have been absolutely dreadful. Alex Killorn has taken multiple penalties where I've just looked at him and gone, "What are you doing?" Like, that is a terrible penalty to take. Kevin Shatner took a couple of those penalties. There have been a couple ticky-tack calls where, I would say, this is playoff hockey. Come on, let's not call that. But the Lightning have taken a ton of penalties, whether it's in the round robin or in the opening round against the Blue Jackets, where I'm just looking at them and going, do better. Like, stay out of the box. Penalty kill is really good, but if you tire those guys out, they won't be as effective the next time.
Right, precisely. And the big problem for me too is that these penalties are just stupid penalties that the Lightning end up taking. Like the too many men on the ice call. You cannot be doing that. You're going to get hurt, even if you're able to kill. The Lightning do have a very good penalty kill, which is helpful and part of the reason I think the Lightning end up doing so well, even with as many penalties as they take. But it'll come back to bite you eventually, so they can't keep doing it. Now, looking at the second key, we mentioned don't play their game, and that's we know this is going to be a physical game. I mean, just looking at the game in March that we talked about, there's going to be some fights. There's going to be tons of line brawls, probably. I mean, these are two teams that don't like each other, and this kind of works with the first key too. And don't take penalties. If the Bruins get inside their head and the Lightning start taking roughing calls or whatever it may be, it's going to put them in a bad position.
Yeah, as much as I would like to see Zach Bogosian or Jan Ruda if he comes back, or Blake Coleman or Barclay Goodrow punch Brad Marchand in the face, it's just not smart in the long term because you're suckering them in. And Brad Marchand is fantastic at doing what he does best, which is being a heel. He's a wrestling heel. That's his job. So the Lightning need to play their game. What is their game? It's tough to tell because it's changed so much over this season. But it's scoring goals, it's limiting them in the defensive zone, and it's being aggressive when you need to be aggressive against somebody and lay a hit or start some sort of, face washing thing after the whistle. If the Lightning play their game correctly, I think that they could do a fantastic job. And we saw that when Eric was talking to us a couple of podcasts ago, when the Lightning played the Bruins last time in the round robin. The Bruins got flustered because Blake Coleman just stood in front of Tuukka Rask, and he didn't move. That is the type of game where I'd say, you know what, you are suckering them in to their own game, and I love it. So that's the only logical thing for, playing their game.
Right, and we do need the physicality element. We're not sitting here saying that we want no physicality. We just don't want to get in those situations where you end up taking silly penalties. Let's look at the last key to the series here. We mentioned face-offs. The face-offs have been obviously a very important part of the game, and the Lightning have struggled in that spot a little bit. Look at one of the games against Columbus where the Lightning only won like 30% of their face-offs. They're going to need to win these face-offs. Face-offs in the offensive zone are huge, and everybody knows that. That's how it is in the NHL. But we're going to need guys to step up and win faceoffs, especially because we're not known as a faceoff team.
Yeah, Game 4 against Columbus, they won 0 faceoffs in the first period. In Game 5, they won a faceoff, and it directly contributed to a goal in the first period. So faceoffs are so important. And I think that's one of the reasons that we saw Mitchell Stevens get in the lineup instead of Carter Verhaeghe. Verhaeghe is a great player. He's fast. He's active. But Mitchell Stevens is fantastic at the faceoff circle. I want to say he was 60% this year, which is unbelievable when you think of someone so young and so unpolished. Um, it would be nice to get Steven Stamkos back in terms of he was actually pretty good at the faceoffs this year. Anthony Cirelli is going to have to step up. He had an off year when it comes to faceoffs, and Braden Point is your guy when it comes to winning a draw and getting net front presence against Yaroslav Halak.
Yeah, faceoffs are going to be big, and Stevens will probably be the biggest part of that in the faceoff circle, I think, because he's one of the best for the Lightning. As we wrap this up, though, let's talk about our predictions. If you guys want to see our full predictions for this round, be sure to follow us on Twitter at BabeBolts, where you can see all of our predictions for round two. But let's talk about the Lightning Bruins series. I said Lightning in 4 on this one, and that's probably the Lightning fan coming out of me here wanting to sweep the Bruins. But this is going to be a tough, long series. What do you think, Michael?
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be a long series. I'm not going to say it's going to go to 7, and the homer is coming out in me. I do think the Lightning are going to win this in 6. However, I do think that if Halak struggles, they don't have a capable backup. Therefore, there's going to be a problem. Whereas if Vasilevsky struggles, and I love Vasilevsky, we have McElhinney, and McElhinney is a proven playoff goaltender. We saw it last year with the Hurricanes. So the Lightning have the goaltending edge. I think that has a lot to do with it. Lightning also have the defensive edge, even with a couple of their key players out currently. So I really like the Lightning in this series, but I can see the Bruins pushing them to a longer series.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I'd love to know what our viewers think on what their predictions are for this series. So be sure to comment down below who you think is going to win and in how many games. And we'll see who's right on this one. It's going to be a long, fun series. So round 2, here we go as we get ready to go. That's all we got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video with the new visualizations and all that good stuff, be sure to leave a like on the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you don't miss out on more content like this. As always, be sure to check our description for affiliate links and all that kind of good stuff. And as always, have a great day and go Bolts.